Hi guys! So it's been a while since I've made anything with these lovely sprues that you guys have been sending in to me. I've been racking my brain thinking, what could I do? As I like to try new things and make something different that we've not made before. And then I was thinking how much use I've got out of this little thing that I made, which basically holds the Citadel paint pots and their lids open and ensures I don't spill it, which is pretty cool. So I do use this quite a lot. And as you can see, it can be moved about or even knocked about and it won't spill over, which is pretty cool. So I was thinking what would go well with this, and obviously that would be some sort of paint holder. So that's exactly what I'm going to make now, guys. So I'm going to make a paint holder that can hold 24 paints, and I'm also going to make a paintbrush holder as well. So keep watching, guys. So the first thing we need to do is cut the sprues up, and in this case I'm going to cut them up so I can keep a nice long straight edge, but also keep part of the round curved edge as well. And then we get down to the all important bit of cutting off nibbly knobbly bits. Wow, feels like ages since I've been saying that. But obviously guys, all these little bits we cut off we keep, so don't throw any of that away, as all these little nibbly knobbly bits and small lengths of sprue basically get put in a jar of acetone and used to make some ooey gooey stuff which we can use in later builds. So now I've got quite a few lengths of sprues cut. It's time to get out some paint bottles just so we can check for size and make sure everything fits in place. So I'm just winging this, but it might have been easier to have drawn some sort of plan up, taken measurements of the bottles and sort of measured out the gaps in between and all the rest of it. But sometimes I like to just get straight in and make it up as we go along, basically. So initially I was thinking 7 bottles in a row would fit nicely in this, and then maybe put a sprue in between each one. But as you'll see later on in the video, I kind of scrapped the idea of putting a sprue in between, which works out pretty well because you can then get 8 bottles in a line. So as I am just kind of making this up as I go along, obviously the main requirements for this are basically to have somewhere for the bottles to be positioned, so obviously they don't fall over or fall out, but I also want to have this so it can have 3 levels. So I've cut up lots of short sprues to the same height, and these all get glued to the bottom sprue, and then I glue the other big sprue to that, so now I've basically got like a barrier. And this way, when I put the paints in, they obviously won't fall out. And there we go, that's the first level done. I've also put a couple of long lengths of sprue and positioned them so they'll be underneath the bottles. So ideally what I want to do is make this little holder, but make it so they can also be moved around without obviously the bottles falling out. And then we take another one of our long lengths of sprue with the rounded corners on, and then that can then be positioned behind the bottles so it keeps them in place, but it also acts as the start of the next level. So we can get that sprue glued into place, and then we can start building up this second level, similar to how we did the first level. So I've got a couple of long sprues going all the way along. Again, these will be underneath the bottles to keep them in place. And then we start putting the smaller sprues along the sides and the front, just to raise up this next level. So this is the one great thing I found out about sprues with all my other little builds, is they make for some great framework, and once glued they're really strong. And then once the second level's done, no surprise here, we do the same sort of thing for the last third level. Obviously you could make this as large or as small as you like, but in this case I think the 3 levels works quite well, and using the whole sprue as it is basically means there's less cutting and less gluing, and I also like the rounded edge look. So that's all 3 levels in place now, and the bottles sit in quite well. Now it's just a case of tidying up the back end. As I say, because I was making this up as I was going along, I've left bits overhanging just so I'd have enough there that I could then tidy it up and basically cut bits off. And whenever we cut the sprues to length, we also cut off all the nibbly knobbly bits. So I wonder how many times I've said nibbly knobbly bits throughout all my videos of me making things with sprues. Any ideas, guys? Leave your guesses in the comments. And maybe one day I'll go through my videos and check. So I've cut off all the extra bits at the back, and now to tidy it up I've just got a few more sprues to put in place, and then we're pretty much done. So there we go, I think it's looking pretty good now. Now to test it out, we can put some bottles in, and obviously the bottles fit in nice and well, and they're not going to fall out or fall over, which is cool. But obviously as you can see, the ones on the ends are fine, but the ones in the middle, there's a little bit of give there. So what I'm going to need to do is add some more supports just to these centre pieces, just to make sure that when this is fully loaded with all the paint pots, it basically won't sort of sink in the middle and well, snap. So I'm just going to add some extra bits to this, just to kind of like reinforce it. And there we go, I've only had to put in 3 supports, but that'll definitely do the job now. So now on to painting. I'm going to keep mine simple, and I'm basically just going to prime it in white paint. But obviously when you do yours, guys, well, you paint it whatever you like, really, don't you? So I think it's come out pretty neat looking, really. Nice and simple, but effective. And initially I was going to put 7 paints in each row, but not having the gap in between them means I can get 8 in nicely, and they fit just perfectly, which is pretty awesome. And there we go, 3 rows of 8 paints. Great little holder, and as I say, I've made it so it can be picked up, moved around, and yeah, basically I doubt this will fall apart because the old cement glue is pretty good. There you go, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little one. But obviously now we've got the paint holder, we also need a paint brush holder, so that's what I'm going to make next. If there's anything you want to see me make out of sprue, guys, leave it in the comments below. So some of the sprues you guys are sending in have actually still got bits on them, which is pretty awesome, because obviously I can use these, I'll cut these out and put them in my bits box, and maybe I'll do some sort of kit bashing and make stuff with them later. So usual thing, guys, obviously cutting off some lengths, cutting off all those important nibbly knobbly bits, which as you can see I've got quite a big pile to the left hand of the screen now. They'll all be going in a little jar of acetone later. So yeah, in this one basically I need to make loads and loads of lengths, so it's going to involve quite a lot of cutting up, just to get the required amount. So I've got quite a few here now, but I kind of know I'm probably going to need more. So I've taken a brush, again, to use as a kind of like a reference for the size sort of pot that I want, as I want them to obviously sit in there so they're not going to fall out, but I also want to be able to grab them and take them out basically. So this seems a pretty good height, and then it's just a case of making loads or cutting loads down to this very same height. So as with most sort of sprue projects I do, they do involve quite a lot of time, but obviously because of lockdown and all the other things that are going on in the world, I seem to have quite a lot of time, so making these kind of things out of sprues is a great way of passing time, and obviously it saves on money as well. So now I've got loads cut down to the same length. As I'm going to be gluing these side by side, I really need to get rid of any extra little like knobbing bits that are still sticking out. So basically it's a case of sanding them down, just to get rid of any extra little nibbly knobbly bits that might still be sort of like there. And then once they're relatively smooth, we can now get onto the process of gluing them all together basically. And so this is why you really need to get rid of any extra little knobbly bits, otherwise there'll be too big of gaps in between. Having a little bit of a gap's fine, but we need quite a bit of an edge for each one to basically sort of glue onto the next one really. And there we go, we've got quite a nice little panel there. And I'm basically going to make mine sort of the same sort of shape and size as this Coke can. Obviously it's going to be a bit shorter. So yes, you can kind of wrap this around it both ways really. You can have it wrapped around so you can see the sprues quite clearly, or you can have it wrapped around the other way so it'll be more of a flatter edge. But as I am making things out of sprues, I quite like the idea of seeing that it is still sprues. So obviously that first batch that I made wasn't quite enough, but I kind of knew that at the time. So it's basically a case of making loads more lengths, cutting them down, cutting nibbly knobbly bits off, sanding down, and then yeah, gluing them together to basically make another panel that I can wrap around the rest of the Coke can to make it one full circle. And there we go, the Coke can's fully covered now, which is pretty cool. So well, this could almost be a Coke can holder, I guess. But there, so it's kept its shape well. But what I need to do now is make a bottom for this. So basically I'm going to get some more sprues, more gluing, and there we go. So there's a kind of a base. This I haven't sanded down because it's not going to really be on show, so it didn't really need to be as good as the rest. And then it's a case of drawing around it, so we can cut that circle out. And then basically that circle we would put inside what we've currently made, glued in position, and then we'll have a nice base for the paint pot holder, so when you lift it up, the brushes don't fall out the bottom. And there we go, that's come out pretty cool. So you could just use it like this and just put the brushes in, and obviously just have them sort of like leaning out to the sides or leaning out wherever. But I don't like the idea of that. I want to make it more neater looking by having it so when you put the brushes in, they all stand up nice and straight, and basically they don't sort of like fall into each other or knock into each other. So to do that, I'm basically going to cut up some more sprues, no surprise there, and then basically glue these in like a crisscross sort of manner so that the paintbrushes will fit in between each one of the little holes. So I always find the best ideas are generally the simplest, and this certainly is a nice simple way of making sure that the brushes stand up on end and don't touch each other. So once it all dried, I cut it out the same way I did the base, basically putting a Coke can over the top, drawing around it and then cutting it out. So this should fit in this nice and tight, and there we go. Just a case of gently pushing it down because I don't want it to fall down too far, and then I can use my tool just to sort of like ease it in a little bit. And so it's a nice tight fit, which is cool. So just gently prise it down, and then we can just check that the brushes fit in there nicely, which they all do, so I'm pretty pleased with that. And again, I'm only going to paint mine in a white primer, and I'm not too sure what I'm going to do with these eventually. But yeah, again, I'm really pleased, something nice and simple. And the great thing is, this is something that I will actually use, well, quite often. Even though I have got a paintbrush holder already, the more paintbrushes I get, well, the more holders would be nice to have. So, nice and simple and effective, and I hope this is something you guys do. So there we go guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly enjoyed making these, and I say it's nice to make something that is very useful, as I'm sure everyone out there who's got sprues will obviously have brushes and paints, because the idea is that you paint the things that are on the sprues. Or obviously in my case, I kind of make more things with the sprues than what came on the sprues. But there you go. So yeah, they worked out nice and easy, look pretty good. And I'm sure this is something most of you guys could use if you haven't already got some sort of paintbrush holder or pot holder. As always guys, it'd be great if you could hit the like button, leave a comment down below, and share this video on any social media you have, just to help support the channel and help it grow. If you are new here and you like what I do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell to be informed of all the new videos that come out. As always guys, a big thank you to all my patrons for helping support the channel, as without their help I'm not sure I'd be able to keep making videos. So if you want to help support the channel and see some behind the scenes stuff that doesn't get seen on YouTube, then click on the link and go and check it out. There is also another video on the screen guys, why not click on that, see more of what I do. Okay guys, bye for now.